and you put the pepper in your hand, you can throw it at him, and then you can attack.
I'm going to go boom, paf, kick, and then cross hook.
Everybody
and then
thinks when they
attack
fight in the gym that you're going to fight like that. It's not like that. You know what? That's with no pressure. Once you put the pressure on, your friends and family members are in the audience. It's a whole everything that you worked on. It goes out the window, and you just start freaking mauling around. It takes like 8 fights to get really comfortable and to get used to. Some of them never get to it, you know, because they freak themselves out. It's so much pressure. There's no room for mistakes. You make a mistake, you get knocked out or submitted.
Yeah.
I'm more nervous for my students when they fight than when I fight myself, because I'm not in control. You know, I know what they can do.
Yeah.
But you know, for a fighter, don't be a puci. Here we go again, that crazy word. Eat whatever they want, they drink whatever they want, take drugs whatever they want. You're not free if you know. There's no excuses. You know, you should get your vices under control. And once you get them under control, your life is going to be so much better. Because once the body-mind connection works.
El Guapo, Bas Rutten. Bas, welcome to For the Win MMA, my brother. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you here today.
You're very welcome, my friends. My pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
Well, I was telling the guys in Spanish as we were starting this that you're one of the first images that comes to mind when I think of MMA. I became a fan when I was 11, around that time. I'm 38 now, and the first images I saw of any kind of combat sport were your images tearing it up in Pankration with a neighbor next door, right?
You don't know how many people you influence. And I get phone calls from everywhere and emails from everywhere. It's even parents ask me to talk to their kids. It's like, you wouldn't do that 20 years ago because I was a crazy guy. But I cleaned up quite a bit. I became a little bit more healthy, so to say. And from that moment on, yeah, people actually started asking me, hey, can you talk to my kids? Can you do this? Can you do that? So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Well, it's a journey, man. Being a good guy, being a bad guy, having an experience across the spectrum, I think it's so valuable for you to share with young people and upcoming fighters and all. So I just wanted to get to that first, and now we're gonna talk a little bit about the UFC Hall of Fame. This year turns 10 years since you were inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame, and I wanted to know what it's been like for you since you were inducted in the Pioneers Wing. As you reflect on this decade, how's your perception of what it means to be a Hall of Famer fighter has evolved for you and the sport itself? What do you think about that?
Well, it's big for me, you know, especially the pioneer section, right? Because the pioneer section only can grow so much. There's not a lot of pioneers, right? We were the first guys who started it. You know, the rest they will keep on going, and that can be good for 1,000 years. But you know, if people over 1,000 years go back in history, if the planet is still there, of course, because we're freaking messing it up, then you know, it's cool to be one of the guys who started it, who was there for right from the beginning. And I always said it because they always ask me, "Don't you want to fight now?" And with all the money, I say, "I'm good with money." You know, I did. Thankfully, I streamed into other adventures, you know, and I made my money there. And I got some inventions that I did and made, and everything is going really well. So it's not a problem for me. And you know, I liked it under those rules. You know, when I was fighting, it was legal in 3 states here in America because it was human cockfighting, right? It was like this crazy thing that you couldn't do anywhere. So only 3 states. It was legal. You know, there was no weight classes. Actually, the UFC was the first time I fought for a weight class. That was the heavyweight division, 200 pounds and up. But I fought always big guys in Japan. There was no weight class. So, and then when you come from Japan, you fight 30-minute fights, you know, one round of 30 minutes. You know, they're fighting 15 minutes and 2, 3 minute rounds overtime. So it's like easy. You know, you're like, shit, I can do that. You know, so yeah, it's been a journey, and I'm very happy that they asked me to be in the Hall of Fame because let's face it, you know, I fought only 2 fights in the UFC, and then in 2000 I fought one more fight for the LFA, I believe it was at the time, or it was called WFA, and
Totally.
you know, and I asked him, I said, wow, I expected maybe as a fighter because it was only a fighting fighter, you learn it in Japan because if it goes to a decision and it's against the Japanese guy, it's close, it will go to that guy. So once
Yeah.
that happens once or twice, you don't want to go to a decision anymore. You know, you got to finish him.
Absolutely. Well, beyond recognizing individual achievements, how important do you believe the UFC Hall of Fame is in preserving the sport's history and educating future generations about the pioneers and significant moments that built MMA into what it is today?
It's everything, you know. If I wouldn't have fought for the UFC, hardcore fans would have known me, but the rest not, you know, because Pankration, it was before the UFC. We started 2 months before September 93. I mean, UFC was November, the first show they had. So, but I always knew I wanted to go to the UFC. So once the UFC's champions started coming and I started beating them, I go, okay. And then the matchmaker came, John Peretti at the time. And then after I knocked my opponent out, he goes like, "Hey, we want you." I go, "Let me fight this contract that I have. I got 3 more fights." He goes, "How long is that going to take?" I go, "4 months." He goes, "What?" I go, "Yeah, I fought a lot. I mean, the first year I fought 8 fights. The second year I fought 9 fights. I mean, all these guys now they fight like once or twice a year." I go, "Dude, we were. If I wasn't injured, I wanted to fight again because it was a paycheck, of course, you know. So just let's keep on fighting." So and in '97, I moved to America, and that's I had one more fight in Japan from that moment, I think, and then I went to the UFC. So '98 was my first fight in the UFC. Long time.
It's crazy to put all that in perspective, being so active, fighting 8, 9 times a year. It's something that if you put into today's concept, it's crazy to think about. You concluded your career with an astonishing 22 fight beating streak. And after a decade of your Hall of Fame induction, this record, as we discussed before, remains standing and it's quite legendary. What do you attribute that incredible consistency to, especially in an era with fewer weight classes and way more unpredictable matchups?
Well, it's just me being a knucklehead in the beginning, you know. In Holland, there was submissions. That was not a big thing in Holland. We could do it in Amsterdam, but it's a 2-hour drive for me, you know. So going to Amsterdam and then coming back, that's 6 hours, 6 hours out of my day. And then most of the time when I was there, some guys would not train with me. It was really weird. So it was hard to find a sparring partner. And then after my third loss by submission, I got very angry and I became very vocal. I started asking everybody who wants to work out with me, you know. And I found this one guy, Leon Van Dyke. He was like 21 years old, super good striker, super strong, and also very, you know, picked up things fast. And we just started rolling. I never had a coach. I just looked at fights and I looked at instructionals, and I say, okay, well, wait a minute, I think I can make this better. And then we started experimenting, and suddenly I fell in love with it. And once I fell in love with it, well, what you do, you're going to do it a lot, right? So I was doing it 3 times a day, every day. And then I lost the last fight by submission. I won my next 8 fights by way of submission. Now people were going like, oh, what's going on here? And that was it. I never lost the fight anymore. But it started with me making that step to learn the one thing that I was missing. You know, my Achilles heel was the ground because I didn't have it. But then once I learned it, I became obsessed with it. I mean, if you listen, I in 2000 I came out with an instructional DVD, and BJ Penn called me at the time, and I didn't know BJ. I was a big fan, but I thought first somebody was messing with me, and he says, "No, it's BJ." Blah blah blah. So once I found out it was really him, he goes, he says, "I'm watching your instructional DVDs." I go, "Uh oh, what do you think?" He goes, "Dude, who was your coach?" I said, "I never had a coach." He says, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, I did everything myself." He says, "That hand control that you do with arm bars and all that, say you came up with that." And I go, "Yeah." And I go, he goes, "Dude, this could be the best instructional there is," he said. And I go, "Dude, that's a big compliment coming from a guy who had a black belt in 3 years." And then everybody in Brazil said that it was given to him. He went to Brazil and he wins the world championship there. He
Yeah.
beats all the black belts. So a guy like that telling me, like, dude, that's crazy what you did. So before he hung up, of course, I asked, "Hey, can I use your quote?" Because that's a good quote to have
that that
when I
will
take
help you make
myself
some money,
serious.
of course.
Yeah. But that was it, you know,
Well,
just make the decision. Whatever you weak at, work that. That's it. That's always my advice to everybody.
Bas, I remember you mentioned during your acceptance speech in the Hall of Fame, you mentioned your grandson who was just a newborn baby at the time, and you were hoping to see him carve his own path in the octagon. As a loving grandfather now that you are, right? Do you still think that you'll see that happening at age 10, maybe 11? Is he already preparing to follow your footsteps?
Well, he started kickboxing at 6, which they wouldn't allow. And it was funny because I was just visiting Holland. And they said, no, they don't sign up 6 years old. I said, let me bring him to the gym. It will be okay. So as the moment I stepped in there, they were like, okay, he can train here. So now he was training with the older kids, like 11, 12-year-olds. So there's a big gap. And of course, that gap at that age is too much, So then he lost interest. But now he's telling my daughter and her husband that he wants to start again. He's playing soccer right now, but he's a big kid. He's like a natural heavyweight. He's bigger than everybody else in his class.
So there's still hope.
There's still hope, but he's doing pull-ups, everything. I made a whole video about him.
That's great.
He's a strong little kid. So yeah, he's got the genes also. And like my daughter. My daughter is also she's 6 feet and she's a tough one also. So yeah, a good combination for both of them.
That's great to know. I was hoping that that was the answer, honestly, because I would love to see something like that happen. Now, 10
It's
years
scary,
later,
right?
I'm sorry.
No, it's scary. Like I have a daughter,
Yeah,
my youngest daughter. She's 24. But if she would have focused on fighting, she, dude, she's a freak, right? She can do it. She had abs when she was 3. Like people look at her and they go like, well, how is this even possible? I mean, yeah, she's a freak show, and she'll pick up things super fast. But now I'm thinking, I'm very happy that she didn't start fighting because I'm always more
that it
nervous.
skipped a generation, right?
Yeah, it's hard. It's like my students. I'm more nervous for my students when they fight than when I fight myself because I'm not in control. I know what they can do,
Yeah,
but for a fighter, everybody thinks when they fight in the gym that you're going to fight like that. It's not like that. You know what? That's with no pressure. Once you put the pressure on, your friends and family members are in the audience. It's a whole everything that you worked on, it goes out the window, and you just start freaking mauling around. It takes like 8 fights to get really comfortable and to get used to. Some of them never get to it, because they freak themselves out. It's so much pressure. There's no room for mistakes. You make a mistake, you get knocked out or submitted.
yeah.
That's it.
It's an unforgiving environment for
Really
sure.
is, and it puts
Now,
a lot of pressure on people.
now 10 years later, we're talking about Hall of Fame inductions again, and as we discussed before, your former student Mark Kerr is joining you in the Pioneer Wing. What does this mean to you professionally and personally? Because to see someone you coached is entering this exclusive club, especially on such a significant anniversary for your own induction, that has to hit special inside, right?
Yeah, Mark has always been such a good guy. I mean, it's really weird. If you talk to Mark Kerr, you think he's the sweetest person there is, and then when he fights, he's the most freaking destructing machine.
Oh
That's why they
my
called him the smashing machine. He would literally in the guard, he would grab somebody by the ears and then lift him up and headbutting him back. I mean, dude, he was like completely insane. So once we start working technique on that guy, yeah, he started demolishing everybody. Now, unfortunately, we know he had also a drug problem, which, of course, in the end, it will always go wrong. That's one of those things. If you start drinking or doing drugs, in the end, you always lose, So it's better to stop right away because there's no way that you can be successful and doing that. So, yeah, for him to clean up his life and now to be inducted, that's a big thing for me also because, like I said, he's such a sweetheart. It's really weird when you see guys who are so sweet and they completely make a 180 when they fight and become this violent, crazy person. It's fun to watch.
Boss, let's talk about the Smashing Machine movie that's coming up in October 3, right?
So
That's
yes,
the when it hits theaters. Mark Kerr's story, particularly as depicted in the Smashing Machine documentary and the upcoming film, often centers in themes of struggle, addiction, and an attempt at redemption, right? From your personal experience with him, what do you believe is the most crucial message or lesson that the audience should take away from Mark's complex life and career?
don't do drugs. It's, I mean, like I said, there's moments you can do that. Listen, we all did it. I did it, and everybody's because you're focusing so much for a certain amount of weeks for a fight, and then after the fight, what you do, well, you go crazy. I go crazy for 2 days. My wife doesn't know where I am. I say, I come back when I come back, and then you start training again because in Japan I had a high fight schedule. But that training saved my butt, and I should have seen it coming because at the end, once you suddenly take the fighting away, then you're going to just keep on partying. And that's one of the reasons I took the fight in 2006. I didn't fight for 7 years. And my wife goes, "Are you crazy? Why do you take this fight?" I say, "Because it's going to force me to stop drinking. I can't do drinks and drugs. I can't do it if I fight. And it worked. So but that was the main reason I took the fight. And of course,
Eureka.
yeah. And the paycheck was nice, and we wanted a house with a pool. So then we moved like a quarter mile up where they had a house with a pool. So it was all nice, but it wasn't the money that they have now. Now it's millions of dollars if you become the champion. But for me, it was the main reason was simply to stop drinking, and
Yeah.
it worked. It set me out. And that was also the first time I took a dietitian, and I felt so good. I go, man, why didn't I do that before? I always thought I could freaking eat pizzas, whatever. I don't care. The day before I took a couple of beers, and I just thought I had just this crazy body that could do everything. But then, once I was 42 and I started watching what I was eating, so that at that moment, since 2006, I've been starting to watch what I eat now, because I knew it was a major difference in performance.
Right.
So that was the good thing that came out. The bad thing was that I had all my injuries back. So I knew this was my last fight. But thankfully, I got those injuries because I'm a knucklehead, man. I will keep on fighting. And eventually, you are going to lose because you're fighting guys half your age.
Well, Bas, you both and Mark faced immense pressure and physical tolls throughout your careers. What was your perspective on Mark's mental state during the peak of his career and the challenges he faced outside the cage, particularly considering that your own disciplined approach to training and fighting is operative at the moment? Did you feel like you had to address these non-physical aspects with them?
No, that was the thing. I didn't know. I had no clue. I know, like, he comes in with me to train. Let's say he's going to stay with me for 4 weeks. I put him on a weight scale, and I say, if you gain 1 pound, you're out. He goes, why? Why? I said, because with the training that I do, you cannot gain weight. It's impossible. We're not going to do weights. We're not going to do all that stupid stuff because you don't need it. Of course, he doesn't need it because he's strong enough. With my kind of workouts, because we need to work with that body. That body needs a lot of oxygen. So I don't want him to do weights because it's going to blow him up. It's going to make him breathe harder. Everything is going to be worse. So, but I never knew why he was sweating. And there's actually a scene in the movie where where I literally, I'm training with three guys, officially in the real script, in the real life. I'm training with Mark Kerr, Pedro Hizo, and Marco Huas. So, and I'm using my strength. Now, the reason I stopped fighting was because I got tendonitis in both arms. Tendonitis is a freaking killer, man. It hurts so bad. If it hits, I can for an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm being insane pain. It's like, and that's every day before the fight. Once it starts, every workout I will have it. And I go like, dude, I can't do this. I need to go. I need to go to a hotel, a hospital or something. And then he said, no, I got something for you. I didn't know what it was. And when he pulled out a syringe, I didn't care at that moment because I was in so much pain.
It was about feeling better at the time, right?
That was it. And he shoots me up, and I remember looking at me. He says, "It's going to be okay." And then, but I was completely crushed. I was like started to sweat, and that was the aha moment. I was like, "Whoa, okay." So that's the reason he was starting to sweat all the time. And then I realized, okay, he is on that stuff. And I remember I couldn't do anything. The whole night was gone. I could not believe that somebody could fight on that crap. It was really, it made me not feel good. But apparently, you simply get used to it. I guess I don't know how it works,
Yeah.
but yeah. And then I found out, okay, he's doing that. But then I also knew that once people are addicted, then there's going to be a point that it starts going back. And that's just what happened. But also with this relationship, it was a toxic relationship. But you will all see that in the movie how it plays out. And it was, when I read the script, I got the time warp. I was back in time, so to say. And I go, man, it was a crazy time for
I was
him.
gonna
It's a lot of pressure.
I was gonna ask you about this movie on that front because it brings you back to a lot of places. Some of them with great moments, but some of them are pretty dark as well. So, bringing Mark Kerr's story to wider audiences and your own portrayal of yourself, How do you hope the film impacts the public understanding of Mark's legacy, and how do you view your own significant, albeit sometimes challenging, role in his career?
Well, you can, yeah, you can see everything there. What you should not do. You see is a guy who is incredible fighter, is absurdly strong, and then suddenly you see that it's the same as taking a pill, right? It's taking him out. It starts taking him slowly but surely. It starts affecting him. So that's the message I think there. Everybody watches the glory, and they all want. This is what I always say. Everybody wants what you have, but they don't want to do the work for it. It's easy when you see a person there, but you don't know what happens. There's no fighter that ever goes to a fight without an injury. There's always injuries, and you're gonna have to work around those injuries because you gotta need a paycheck. And some people, they walk in, and in Japan, I would have lidocaine in an injection, and I would literally, if they called my name, I would inject my freaking ankles because the ankle was completely messed up, close my shoe, and then walk to the ring because otherwise it would hurt too much. And those things, of course, later in life, yeah, they're going to come back. This is what I always tell people. If you if you have an injury and the doctor says don't do anything for 4 weeks, take 6 weeks. But that's not how we are. We are, oh, 4 weeks, 2 weeks, we're going to start
We take
training.
half. Yeah, we take half.
And that's the problem, because then later in life, everything is going to come back. So then slowly but surely you start, yeah, getting injuries everywhere. So it's just not a healthy thing, but it looks really cool. But they have no clue what goes on in the home, in the house. Now you see the relationship between him and his wife, and a lot of fighters have that. There's a lot of these fighters that I go like, they shouldn't be with a particular woman, because if the woman doesn't support them, it's a very hard job. Like, I've been blessed with my wife, man. She actually predicted the whole thing 2 years before it happened. It was crazy. She said that I was going to go to Japan. Well, I said I was never going to fight again, but I said Holland. She says no, you're going to go to Japan. Like there was a year before, and then a year later, suddenly Free Fight came out, and this guy calls me and he says, you got to jump in the car. I never picked up the phone, and my answering machine was broke. But I remember
That was
walking.
Chris Dolman, right? The guy who
Oh my,
told you to
yeah.
go free fighting, right?
And I literally picked it up and I look at my wife. Why am I picking up the phone? And it was him. And jump in your car right now, come to Amsterdam. And I went to Amsterdam, got in a brawl with the guy because there was a new organization, Pankration. They were looking for fighters. But free fighting is what they call. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know the rules when I went there. I didn't know there was no weight classes. I didn't know there was one round of 30 minutes. I mean, I all found that out on the day of the fight. It's like, it's freaky. You don't know, but you just roll with the punches. But she predicted it, and she always had my back. And I think that's a big thing. And I've seen students who are, they can become a world champion, and then they get taken away. The dream gets taken away by women because apparently sex is more important, right? And at that age. And then they
And
say, "Hey, can you
hope
stay home from training?" And these dumbasses, they fall for it. And I tell them, I say, "This is what
temptations and
you're gonna do.
distractions, man.
Don't do it,
Yeah,
because you're gonna. If you say no, she's used to you saying no. If you say yes, now you give her a finger. And then next week it's going to be 2 workouts. And this is how it goes, slowly but
yeah,
surely. And then suddenly the career is gone. I'm pretty sure it works the other way around as well now with the women fighting, right? So if the
right.
partner doesn't like them, it doesn't like it, you need support. If you come home with injuries and you're completely crushed, and you're not a happy person, you need somebody who understands that. I like my last fight. I was so injured. That was after 7 years, what I talked about. I moved to a different house. I said, listen, my buddy is on a holiday. He says, grab the house, because I knew I was so much in pain that I wasn't going to be a pleasant person to hang around with. So the last 10 days, I was staying somewhere else because I didn't want to be a douche to the family, because, yeah, I was hurting, but people don't see that. They only see once you're on there, and that's all an act, of course, because you can't show anybody
The
that you're
15,
injured
the
because they don't
25
know.
minutes or less,
That's the
right?
problem.
Boss, I want to take you away from the Hall of Fame, and I want to invite you to put on your analyst cap for a moment, because this weekend it's an exciting weekend at UFC, not only because of the UFC Hall of Fame as we discussed, but because we have a lot of major names clashing this Saturday. And Alexandre Pantoja and Kai Kara-France are all acquaintances, as you know. This is technically a rematch from their Ultimate Fighting days. Throw so, how much does the past encounter, even if it was an exhibition in the tough house, play into the mental game for both Pantoja and Cara France heading into a title fight? Do you think it gives either man a psychological edge?
Uh, well, they were fighting to win, right? I mean, even if it's an exhibition, you always try to win, of course. If they were really pushing it, that's the same as a fight. For these guys at that level, it doesn't matter anymore if they're in a dojo or in a real fight because they will perform the exact same thing. So most of the time, the person who took it um, thinks he has it, but you have to understand the person who lost it will train harder because of the fact that he lost to him. You see, so it can go two ways. And for me, it was always when something like that happened, and even if I would dominate him, I would know this guy would turn up his training, so that I would make sure that I would turn up my training as well. But if pride kicks in, and pride tells you, hey, you already beat him, kind of, right? And you know what you can do against him, that's a big problem. And people can change a lot. Like, look at George St. Pierre. Every time when he fights, he came up with something new. He has Koshek, it was a jab, it was a back kick, and then, something he never did before. And just that completely took him out of the game. And then, together with his other skills, he got the victory again. So it's these little things that suddenly they start clicking. And there's always things that suddenly you never knew, and suddenly you get introduced to them, and you go, wow, I never saw this before. This is crazy. This is very effective. Well, if your opponent never saw that particular setup or whatever it is, well, you're going to be successful. That's what fighting is all about. Everybody knows how to land a 1-2. But if you find a way with a certain distraction, a certain feint, a certain movement, or doing it off a counter, of whatever it is, something that your opponent never saw before, well, you only have to connect once, right? If it's a full-on connection, you got him. And it's the same with submissions. If you don't, that's why when I was with the submissions, I go like, well, everybody does a setup like that. Why don't I create different setups? Things that they never seen before, and then
Different
suddenly you get
pathways to get
successful.
to the same, right?
It's very simple. Whatever they never saw before or never happened to them in training, it's probably what's going to make the opponent win. So yeah, I wouldn't look at that. I would look at the persistence, how tough the guy was, because if they have a lot of stamina, a lot of, make sure that you're going to boatload up on stamina. So, and I'm pretty sure at this level, these guys are both are doing it. It doesn't matter who won or lost. They both are going to be freaking crazy. And it's going to be a
Yeah.
very exciting fight, to get the
I'm
right
I'm
one.
so excited to see if Kai Kara France has what it takes to solve the Pantoja puzzle this time. So yeah, remains to be seen, right?
Yes.
The main event for this Saturday, Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira for the lightweight title that's vacant right now. That's incredibly intriguing. Ilia has taken a big name about. He's been talking big game about moving up and dominating. What are your initial thoughts on his move to lightweight, and what do you believe his power will translate effectively against the bigger, more durable lightweights, and especially against a veteran like Charles Oliveira?
Oliveira, man. Oliveira is a guy who really worked himself up. A guy had some losses in the beginning, learned from those losses, never complained, never, okay, I got to work harder, and boom, suddenly it's just start killing everybody. That's a dangerous fighter to have. And Ilya to do this, but to go down in weight class, he's going down, right? Yeah, that's what he is. Um, I never like fighters to go down in weight class. I think if you're very close to the weight class, I would say, okay, do it. But if he has to push really hard in order to get that weight, I don't know if it's a smart thing. You're going to get weaker. The body needs water, right? And it's the most important thing well, air, water, food, right? That's the three ones.
Right.
The survival
Well, in
rule.
this case, Ilya is moving up to 155,
Oh,
so
okay.
he's going
See,
to be
so that yeah,
more lively,
okay.
of course.
You see that's going to be a tough test there for Oliveira. Ilya, when he moves up in weight, yeah, now he can give his body what it really wants. So I always think that the person who goes up in weight will actually perform much better instead of the other way around. Most of the time, what happens is um, a person loses and maybe loses two fights in a row, and then he says, "Oh, it's because my opponent cuts more weight and therefore he's stronger. So let's cut more weight." Don't do that. It's going to make you weaker. You can't, and especially with the IV bags now, they outlawed these things. You can't do it anymore. Just fight your natural weight because it makes you stronger. So Ilya being going up in weight, yeah, that's a dangerous fight. But then again, Oliveira, like, he's been there before, man. It's uh, it's a hard fight to call because he's dangerous.
Difficult, of
Both
course.
these guys, both these guys are dangerous everywhere. This is a super exciting fight, and that's why we have it on Fight Week, of course, because it's going to be an incredible card.
I'm gonna take you out of that card, but we'll stay within the UFC purview. Magomed Ankalaev, right now the undisputed UFC light heavyweight champion after defeating Alex Pereira at UFC 313. From your perspective, watching his calm, his calculated approach, what do you see as his greatest strengths, and what challenges might his grappling heavy style present for the division top strikers as he embarks on this reign?
It's all about, can you take the fight to the ground? Can you take the fight to the ground? Which she can, because she's really good with it. So it's very simple. I always said, if you to excel at two things, you're either a really good wrestler, and I'm talking top of the line wrestler with really good ground. That's a great combination to win a lot of fights. Or you're a really good wrestler with really good hands. Now, preferably you want to have it all, of course. And of course, Ankalaev can hit as well. I'm not saying that, but compared to Alex Pereira, this is just he's a monster. But most of the time when you have those two skills, you can dictate where the fight's going to go. Chuck Liddell made a whole career out of it. Stop the takedowns, knocks you out. Right now the level is different now. It's the same as the level was different when I was there. Everybody's good pretty much everywhere, and they still get these dangerous punches. Plus, you don't know what Ankalaev has been working on. He knows that his striking might be not so crisp. So God knows he's only been striking. If he pulled a Bas Rutten, so to say, instead of grappling, because once I knew striking, I knew. I just started training 3 times a day grappling. And the only striking I did was tie pads and focus mitts. That was the only thing. I didn't spar anymore. I know how to spar. I did that my freaking entire life. Let's focus now on the things that I can do. And if he does the same thing, that's it. Now, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you, boss.
Okay, good,
Loud
because
and
it says
clear.
the new audio device detected. Do you want to do something? So I don't want to touch anything. So that's why I'm letting
Don't
you go.
touch anything. It's all good. I can hear you loud and clear. I
Okay,
look
good.
at you and I see a crispy, great looking man.
Good. I love to hear that. You can say that like 10 times in a row. No, yeah. So it's just going to be harder and harder to beat because now he knows what power he has, and he's going to work on his weaknesses, which are not really weaknesses, but he can clean that up. And once he cleans that up, he's going to be only better. It's if they're smart, and these guys nowadays, they're all smart. In my days, we had just guys who were heavy, and I fought a guy 265, yeah, but he's going to run out of gas. Now you got guys 265 and they can go 5 rounds in 3 minutes full power.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
that's a whole
crazy.
different animal. You see, so everything gets better and better and better all the time, and all these fighters, they work on their weaknesses. It's not rocket science. It's like, because I always said, I don't understand. You got these Dutch fighters, such a great strikers, and every time they lose is by submission. Learn the freaking game. Why won't you do that? Stop striking. They're not going to strike with you. They want to take your ass down. Make sure that you know the freaking ground game. How is it to
Excellent.
become a champion? That was literally my thought. I go like, if I'm if I become a champion, but then in my next fight I'm going to lose by submission because I was so stupid not to learn the whole game of mixed martial arts, that's not so me. It's the dumbest thing there is. And the thing is, you don't like it for the wrong reasons because once you start doing it, like I like submissions way better than striking now. I actually won more fights by submission than I did by knockout because I saw the combinations. You go like, holy shit, this is if any
There's so many
fighter,
pathways you can go from. Yeah.
because if you have the power to dislocate pretty much any joint in the body or break about pretty much any bone in the body, that's a big freaking power to have. And once I understood that, I go, wow, you make a mistake, you leave a leg out, there's the heel hook, inverted heel hook, toe hold. I mean, you can go as crazy as you want. How can I make a toe hold different? Like last time when Joe Rogan was this guy who did it in his neck. And he says, yo, he invented it. I go, I beat Maury Smith like that in 1995. He didn't invent it. You see, because I never had a coach. I just say, hey, wait a minute, this works too. Oh, wait a minute, if he rolls out, I got him in the knee bar. Oh, good. Oh, can I do it inverted? Yeah, inverted it works too. I mean, those are the things. And I'm sure I didn't invent it. I know this has been around a long time. We just forget certain things. I have this Bas Rutten neck crank that a lot of fighters use now, and they win fights with. They say you invented it. I go, well, I think I gave it new life. I've never seen it. I never seen anybody do it, but to me, it sounds weird if I would be the one who invented that. I think it's somebody's been doing that before. It's got to, I mean, there's so
Yeah.
many people are grappling. I can't say I invented that, just because I didn't never saw it. So I always leave that open because God knows a guy comes out. He says, "Oh, I actually want to fight with that," like in 1942. You don't know, right? But people forget. They see a stupid move and they go, "Oh, it's a stupid move." Well, yet I tap everybody with it, and now fighters start doing it, and then they give me props. They say, "Oh, it's the Bas Rutten move," which is a cool thing. But again, I will never claim I invented it, because
Just
it's
a
no
happy
way.
accident, I guess, right? Like
Yeah, it is. You
you
see
you don't
something.
want to take credit because you're a humble man, and that and understanding that that was your weakness. You feel kind of awkward trying to take credit for some moves that were probably there before, just in the way that you cannot compose sometimes new music because all music has already been done, all combinations have already been done, that kind of thing, right?
That's exactly.
Bas,
Yeah.
you were talking about big power recently. I wanted to get your thoughts quickly in order to move on because I still want to talk about karate combat. I want to talk about Jon Jones' retirement, and I have so many people eager to ask you a question around a few minutes. So I wanted to know, what do you think about Alex Potan Pereira's current situation? And I don't know, maybe considering that he has a lot of knockout power, he has a lot of pull within the fight game, not only with the UFC but with the fans. What do you see happening for him after this loss? Do you think he makes a comeback to go back to Ankalaev? Do you think this division is wide open? What do you think about Poitin's involvement in the division right now?
Yeah, he's right. Listen, man, he's the freaking champion. The way he came to mixed martial arts and then started winning, and the way he did it, he's just the guy who picks up fast. He just also needs to completely focus on wrestling, and God knows they already do that. He stopped a lot of takedowns from other people. His wrestling is getting better and better. Now he unfortunately knows it's got to be even better. The trick is what I would do in a situation like that. I would call. Go to Russia. Go train out with all these crazy freaking wrestlers over there. And
Get yourself to Dagestan 1 or 2 years and forget, how they say.
but that's it. I wanted to. Can you imagine he would have if McGregor before he started talking crap about the Nurmagomedov, if he would have said, "Hey, listen, man, can I come to you guys for 6 months or a year?" I
Yeah, all
guarantee
bullshit
he would have
aside,
said
he would
yes.
be unstoppable probably if he would have done that.
But that's what I mean, But then he made these crazy comments about the father and all that stuff, and I go, "Oh my God, now don't go now."
Yeah.
This is a very
That's a
dangerous
different
situation.
approach, guy. That's a different approach.
See, but I mean, you work on your weakness, like Damian Maya. If I would ever go to a submission tournament when I wouldn't have my neck injured or whatever it is, so I'm going to go to a guy like Damian Maya in Brazil, because that's the guy. I mean, at
Yeah.
his weight, to beat the people he beats, he's an unbelievable guy. That you can learn
He's
a
an
lot from that.
incredible source of knowledge, of course.
That's
Yeah.
it. It's just putting your pride to the side and go to a place where they're completely going to destroy you for the first 2 months, and then suddenly you start stopping a takedown once a while, and then maybe you stop two takedowns once a while, and if you stop a takedown two times against guys like that, you're
Yeah,
going to
all
be
that's up
doing
and
really
yeah.
well. Yeah, you get better. It's again work on your weaknesses.
Nothing like nothing like progression over weaknesses, of course.
Yep.
Bas, you've been vocal about Jon Jones throughout his career. You have been always been very opinionated. I wanted to hear your thoughts on his recently announced retirement from the sport, ending one of the most dominant and talked about careers in MMA history. You've always been a candid observer of Jones. What are your immediate reactions to this decision, and what do you believe is the single most defining characteristic of his legacy?
Well, he's the youngest champion ever, right? He did that. I mean, he's undefeated. Hamill, we all know what happened there. It was like, so he's in my eyes, he's undefeated. He wins by submission, wins by knockout. His ring strategy, everything that he's doing, he knows exactly where he is, what he does. The way he set things up, like I always talk about. I just did a seminar with Cormier when he sets him up for 3 rounds before that head kick. and it's all body kicks, body kicks, body kicks, and people have no idea. They say, "Oh, that's easy." That's so hard because your mind, you got two voices in your mind when you're fighting. One voice is saying, do it now," and the other voice says, "No, wait, you gotta wait." But if you want to listen to the guy who says wait, always to the relaxed guy. The other guy, that's the angry guy. He wants to
Rust.
finish it.
Rust.
That's it. You need to rest. And then, for him to do that for 3 rounds to set that up and then suddenly switch to a high kick, the amount of focus you need for that, because you have to understand that one voice is telling him to do it because he might get hit. And Cormier can hit as well. He's a freaking heavy guy with a good punch. If it lands, well, now you're knocked out. Now the whole setup is gone. All that starts going through your head while you're fighting. Well, what if, what if, what if? And once you start thinking those what ifs, then fighting all goes downhill. So for him to control that, that means he's in complete control, and then to wrap it up. So for me, I always been a big Jon Jones fan. Of course, he had some things outside the ring, outside the cage that he shouldn't have done, but we're all stupid, man. If there was social media around when I was fighting, I mean, I was crazy. Not like that, but I did
The
some.
kind of post that we would have seen if the social media machinery would have been around your time, man.
Oh,
I just
Don
fantasize
Fry and
over
all
it.
these guys, dude, we were insane, but we were happy insane, and but that's with them also. We all make mistakes, and I always say, and let people make mistakes. It's so easy to judge somebody who's drunk or on the drugs. It's so easy to do, but we all who did it, they go like, "Ah, that was really stupid." The next day, right? You're gonna go, "Oh, I should have done it." I hope, and the tweets. How many times you send a tweet, and the next day you find out that you sent that
Oof.
tweet because you don't even remember. I mean, but that's what
Don't
I'm
drink
talking.
and tweet, guys. Remember that. El Guapo knows it.
Yeah, you.
Bas, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I
No, no.
wanted to switch gears because we can talk about Jon Jones for a long time and it will remain being interesting. And I still want to get to the guys that are waiting. So I wanted to wrap things up for this part of the conversation with Karate Combat. And I wanted to like bundle two questions in one, if you would humor me. One has to do with the fact that it's been a great run for Karate Combat lately.
Yep.
The special rule set that you guys have is dynamic as hell, and you guys are branching out to different new markets like Abu Dhabi, and I'm sure you have a lot of planned events throughout what's next. So I wanted to know if you could give me a little something that we don't know about because I really was looking for the next Karate Combat event and I'm not sure when this is. So if you have any scoops for me, mwah, I love you, Guapito. But I also, since I'm a Chilean guy, it would be awful if I don't ask you about Macaco, right? So I wanted to know also about Arturo Vergara and how do you relate to him. Um, the bantamweight division in Karate Combat is getting very, very competitive. Who do you see as the biggest threat for Arturo Vergara's reign right now? And what kind of challenges would they pose to his particular style?
Oof. Um, well, first of all, what it looks like right now, we're going to have two shows back to back on the 17th and on the 18th of July. So that's what it looks
That's
right
great.
now. We're building a studio. They're building a studio, so we can also have events in our own controlled environment, which I love because the big trips to Abu Dhabi and Dubai and all that stuff in Singapore, guys, these are 20-hour flights. I'm not a big fan of that
Yeah.
anymore. To go there 6 times a year, no, thank you. So I'm very happy if that is going to happen because then we can control everything. And talking about Arturo, is this is a guy who came into the gym into Go Chat who just, was a mediocre fighter. He was good, but I mean, they got animals there. But then this guy just started building himself up and he decided to become the biggest training monster that they have there. And because of that, that's his heart, that's his spirit, that's everything. He started picking up really fast. And now you see this guy evolve every single time when you see him fight. The ways with the audience, the ways with the people. He's a good dude. He's just I love that guy. It's like that shows to me uh every fighter should be. You don't need to change. You don't need to know. Humble beginnings, keep it humble. You don't have to be all that guy. And of course, he puts the glasses on his show, but deep down inside, you talk to the guy, he is a good guy. And
Yeah, he's a good kid.
Yeah, and that's
What
why.
would you say, Bas, is Arturo's intangible aura when he's competing in the pit from a ringside perspective? You've seen him up close, so what do you think is his intangible skill set?
He 100% knows he's going to win. He's completely convinced that he's going to win. It's not going to be a problem. And I think once you have that, you need to back it up with skills, which he has. And he just goes, no, or you want to fight him, whoever they throw against him, no, it's okay, I'll beat him. That's the first thing he says. It doesn't matter who they change the opponent out. And with that mindset, you can do real things. Like that's the thing I always said, because you can't doubt. If they ask me at the time when Fedor Emelianenko was at his peak and I would fight him, who's going to win? I go, I'm going to win. And people go like, are you crazy? I go, well, I don't think it's a healthy way to go to a fight thinking that you might lose. You know.
Yeah,
So
of
yeah,
course.
I'm going to convince myself completely I'm going to win this fight. Now the fight will tell itself. If I'm going to win or not, and it's going to be a freaking slaughter because it's Fedor Emelianenko. But I'm not going to go to the fight thinking, oh, I'm going to lose this fight. I'm going to lose this fight. There's no way, because then you can't perform. You have
So
to.
relentless Chileno mentality is one of the main ingredients for you to describe what's going on with Macaco right now, basically. Relentless mind.
Okay, I'll give you a different one. It's like every time they say people say something is unattainable, right? And then somebody, but it's the 4 minute mile. Nobody could do it. And then one guy broke the 4 minute mile. Now everybody knew it is possible. And suddenly within freaking 3 weeks, like 3, 4 more, everybody start breaking the thing. So you're holding yourself back mentally the whole time. It's all here, guys. It's not physical. Physical will come, but it's all directed by the freaking computer in your brain. So that when in the past they would say to me, "What is fighting?" He said 50% mental, 50%, and everybody said 50 physical, 50 mental. I said, no, it's 100% mental. 100%. For you to make a decision to go out of bed to do a workout, that's a decision you're going to have to make up here. Whatever you're going to train, if you decide to quit, that's a decision you made. And once you quit a few times, that decision will come back in the fight when it gets hard. And now you're going to quit. And Arturo doesn't have that. He says, okay, every fight, every training session, everything, he's going to win, win, win. He's going to be dominant all the time. And once you fight like that, you can apply this to any job, by the way. It doesn't matter if it's fighting. You can apply this to everything. But we can always do more than we think we can. Our minds are and our bodies are freaking crazy. You just have to do it. If somebody can't do it, well, it is possible, right? That's the 4 minute mile again, that example. Everybody
I
start.
love that this is the way you approach what Macaco is bringing to the table. I love the fact that it shows that he's a guy who comes from a humble beginning and has put in the work and has put in the effort. And it shows not only in his flaunty little style with the glasses, right, and all that fuckery that goes around with parading as a fighter, right, but also you as a guy who understands the game purely to recognize that on him. For me as a Chilean fan, it makes me happy, and that's a great note to left things in before we move on to the mic check portion of the conversation with everybody at the mic check stage here on Discord. So, Bas, before we transition to that, I wanted to give you all my love, all my humble appreciation, because this has been gold for me. I've been having so much fun and I don't want this to end, but we want to take care of the guys here who have been waiting for you and have been excited for this. So, guys, if you have any questions for Mr. Bas Rutten, start raising your hands now and we're gonna take a few questions for sure. Okay, guys, give me a second to set everything up here. I see some hands in the air right now. I'm gonna check a little something first because it's getting kind of crazy. But here we go. So guys, if you're writing something via text, please do so on general chat, not on the mic check chat because I am not able to see that one right now. So be advised to use general chat instead. Okay. So who's got the first question? I see Ridley MMA, I see Setaster, I see Posto Loco. I'm going with Post first. So I'm inviting Posty into chat.
Hey, how's it going? You guys hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you loud and clear. Bas, can you hear him?
Yes, I can.
Cool. Let's start off. Hi, boss. My name's Dylan. It's really good to meet you.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Thank you. So first and foremost, boss, I would just like to express how honored I am to get to speak with a legend and a pioneer of MMA like yourself. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
You're very welcome.
So throughout your epic and brutal career in MMA, one thing stayed constant. You finish people and often finish them swiftly. With that being said, one fight sticks out to me particularly. Your bout against Katsuomi Inagaki. During that match, you hit Inagaki with a total of 10 major shots to the liver, dropping him multiple times. But to the amazement of all, he got up after being knocked down 4 times, with only the fifth knockdown finally breaking his spirit. To this day, would you consider Inagaki your most durable opponent you faced? And what was it like delivering that much damage only to see your opponent keep coming back to the fight?
That's yeah, but I think you were mixing them up. I think it was what's it Jason DeLucia with the body shot, right?
I was doing some research earlier and I saw your fight with Inagaki, where you
Oh,
delivered a lot of shots as well.
yeah. Oh, so Inagaki with a lot of people. Oh, that was Shibuya. Let me see Inagaki. Oh, of course, that's it. Yeah, because he get. And then the final one was when he was sitting on his butt, and I need him in the sternum, right? That was the
Exactly.
fight. You know, these three. I knew that Japanese guys they got a lot of spirit, man, and they don't want to go down. And so for him, that first liver kick, I mean, you heard it. It was in the
Yeah.
Korakuen hole. You heard the impact, and I thought fight's over. But then he got back up, you know. And once that happens, well, I turn it up. I tried to turn it up. So dropping him, I was even hitting him on the liver in the ground and pound, hurting him constantly, and then finally, thankfully, and the referee, I think that he would have kept on fighting. The referees just stopped the fight because that last one was literally he was sitting. I think it was on his knees or on his butt, and then I slid forward and I threw a knee to his solar plexus, and that's when the referee stopped him. But I maybe at that moment, if they would have let him decide if he wanted to fight, God knows he would have kept on fighting. So some fights, yeah, some fighters just can take an unbelievable amount of damage, you know, and they just are in there because yeah, the spirit is working in them. I guess it's like the fighting spirit in Japan, man. It's a big thing. Like this is what I always say in Japan: if you're a fighter and you just show your spirit and you just constantly come back, you have fans everywhere. But if you're a fighter and if somebody mounts you and the opponent loads up a punch and you tap before he even punches you, you'll never be back in Japan. Yeah, you're a pussy, and I always say pussy because I say that's you're a coward, right? That pusillanimous, that's a word that I made a word from, and that's why I pronounce it so different. But that's why I can say instead of the word pussy, I can say pussy. You know, cowardly.
Bas Rutten, always the innovator.
Yeah, I got to do it because otherwise people go like, "Whoa, did you just say that?" I go, "No. I want to watch my language. I don't want to use profanity anymore. That's why I do that." But yeah, once you show weakness that you're not a fighter, you'll never be back in Japan. That's what that audience.
Thank you, Posted. I'm going to
Thanks, Dylan.
rush our next person. So I'm going with Setaster. Setaster, are you there? I'm inviting you in. Can you hear me, Seta?
I can hear you. Can you hear me good?
Yep,
I can hear you loud and clear. Bas, how about you?
I can.
Please, Seta, go ahead. Welcome.
Oh, holy shit, Bas Rutten. First of all, thank you for this for this talk. I mean, it's very also. We're all glad. We're all. You're a freaking legend, man. So thank you. Um, what I want to ask you, like Kote said, well, one of the first glances we had about anything related with MMA was the pancreas, of course your VHS, your video, but also like very in parallel with that, of course I knew the great and one of my personal favorites, Ramon Dekkers. That was a Dutch, very
Shout
one
out
of
to the diamond.
the great Ramon Dekkers. Now, of course, the only approach with Ramon Dekkers with MMA was against after K1 Genki Sudo. He lost by a heel hook.
Yeah,
But
which by the way is my student also.
yeah, now I want to ask you if I want to play a little what if. Now, in the current market, if you had now a prime Ramon Decker under your tutelage, what would you advise him to go in regards to MMA? Would you ask him, to go for the featherweight, lightweight, welterweight? Where do you put a like a top Ramon Deckers now?
Yeah, probably
That's a
welterweight. He
great
was always
question, by the
around
way.
165, right? Pounds.
Yeah,
So he was just a murderer. Like a guy like that with his technique and his mind for fighting. I think if I would have gotten him and then start learning the ground game, I think he would have been excelling in that as well. He was just a freak athlete. Yes, he's my favorite Thai boxer of all time. And I literally was on the same card with him all the way when he was like 17. And a friend of mine, I remember, picked me out of the dressing room, and I had a fight coming up after him. And I was nervous because it was one of my first fights. And he goes, "You got to see this kid." I go, "Dude, I'm freaking out right now. I want to stay in the restroom." He says, "No, you got to see this kid." And he fought a guy who was like 7 years older, and the guy had tattoos, and he was bigger because they didn't care for weight classes at the time. And I go, "My God, the kid's going to get murdered." And my buddy looks at me and he goes, "Just watch." And then the first thing, he doesn't do anything, and suddenly he gives the guy a low kick, and the guy flies horizontal on the ground. He kicks him loose from the ground with that low kick, and I go, "Holy moly!" And that was my introduction to him. And I saw and he was tiny at the time. He was maybe 130 pounds with a little mullet. I still have a picture of him like that. And just started tearing everybody. And then he went to Thailand. Yeah, and of course we know what he started doing there. So he became a big influence of mine. That's why I went to that gym. I actually worked for my last 3 or 4 fights. I was training at the same dojo.
Thank you, Seta. That
Amazing.
was a great question. Some say essay, but I don't care. It was a greatly formulated question. Go eat a dick, guys. So next up, we got Smiley Moore in the house, one of the best guys to ask questions to fighters. Smiley, the floor is yours, my brother. Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Boss, you are one of the godfathers of MMA. So it is an honor and privilege to have you here with us. So thank you. I have so many questions I want to ask and pick your brain about, but I'll keep it to one for now out of respect for others. My question is, after witnessing MMA from its infancy to the monolith it's become today in the world of combat sports, what excites you the most about where we are headed? Whether it's upcoming fighters, evolving techniques, revolutionary and emerging teams, like what gets you the most excited about the sport?
Yeah. For me, it's guys like Israel Adesanya, who come on the scene and who start doing things that nobody ever did before, little fakes, little feints, like fighting different. That's what I said during this interview. If you find different ways and you can do things that others never did to your opponent, you're going to be very successful. Now, of course, over a period of time, people start seeing it. You're giving your blueprint away, so to say, and then they start capitalizing because they also start to change. But for the fighter who constantly adapts, with TJ Dillashaw was a guy like that as well. It's constantly flipping and switching, and it's when he was boxing against Lomachenko. What they showed the videos, but Lomachenko was, I mean, TJ got the better one. And they didn't show that, but even Lomachenko was like, "What's going on?" Because he simply was never in the position that somebody would do it to him, switching stances and being all over the place. And it's the guys who come up with these crazy moves and crazy movements that are very successful. It's like a Sakuraba in the beginning. That's why he did beat 4 Gracies. Well, he would do weird stuff. He would give a double punch to a face. What's that going to do? Well, they never seen that before. They go, "What was that?" Boom, there's a number. It's just as a distraction doing things. So for me, but also what I enjoy now is that everybody's in shape. Everybody knows all 3 games. Pretty much everybody knows. There's always a few guys who still favor the striking or favor the wrestling or favor the submissions, but everybody knows everything. Nobody's run out of gas anymore. That was my biggest thing at the time. Like, how can you run out of gas? It's your job, dude. You shouldn't be running out of gas. Go run a freaking hill. There's always things that you can do to increase your stamina. I had a leaking heart valve. I still have it. So my workouts needed to be always insane because I simply a less pumping heart than a regular person had. So, but that's when you start pushing it. And now everybody's doing it. It's a science. They're all so good. I mean, the food, they watch for everything there. And you got tough guys in there. Yeah, of course, there's some guys who quit, but you don't see them back. So that's the good part. You see only the tough guys. So yeah, the landscape is completely different now. There's a lot of talent, and I love it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Smiley. I'm going with Dylan now. Dylan, it's your time, my brother. Welcome to the mic check. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Dylan, loud and clear. So does Bas.
All right. Thank you, Boss, and thank you, Kote, for doing this. So, Boss, following your mixed martial arts career, you were competing in Japanese professional wrestling for a few years, which was originally described as being the precursor to MMA. When you arrived there, where exactly were the lines blurred between this being a choreographed or scripted performance and it being a real combat sport?
Well, right from the beginning, right? It was this was two pro wrestlers who started Funaki and Suzuki. They started Pankration, and they wanted to fight for real. So there's always been these things. The only person I asked every fighter if they ever was asked to lose or win a fight, and nobody. And the only person who said it was Ken, and that was of a Loth. So you don't know. They never asked me. I remember the second fight. After I had my second fight, I knocked out Fouquet with a knee to the liver, and they wanted me to talk to him. They invited me. Funaki Suzuki invited me to go to a restaurant, and I go, "Oh shit, here we go," because Rings at that time they had fixed fights, and the owner of Rings would say, they might ask you to win or lose, and I go, "Yeah, well then I'm gonna stop." I don't want to be those guys because I saw guys coming back and they would say, "Oh, I won," But if they lost, they say, "I lost, but I had to lose." Yeah, but last time when you won, you also had to win. I mean, come on, man. Let's be honest here, right? And I never wanted to be that guy, so I was afraid that they were going to ask me that. But the dinner was nice. They gave me a book from Fujiwara, which is a really good grappler. And I told them, I said, "It's the dumbest thing you could ever do to give me this book because now I'm going to work on this. I'm going to be only better." And then when I was in the cab, suddenly I asked the cab when they waved me off, I say, "Wait, stop." I opened the window and he says, "What?" I say, "You were not going to ask me to win or lose." He said, "Well, we would never do that." I say, "Okay, that's good," because because I was really expecting something that was going to happen. So no, for me it was always real. I mean, I have never heard any other fighter. I asked Frank Shamrock, I asked freaking Guy Metzger, everybody, if they ever were asked, and then none of them said ever they would. So, yeah, that was a good thing though, because I'm not okay with that. Then it's called pro wrestling, and I don't mind doing pro wrestling, which I did in Japan. But then everybody knows automatically it's set up. You know who's going to win and who's going to lose.
Thank you for the question, Dylan. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Boss, before we close this thing up, I have a question from one of our mods who can be here right now. His name is Usada. And he asks, what's the story behind the fuck terrorist poster that was shown in the 2003 Pride FC Grand Prix? There's a lovely image of you sitting on a little throne with your belts, flipping birds to the terrorist. Could you give me some insight on that story?
Yeah, well, that was the 2001 freaking the World Trade Center, right? When that happened. So I saw this big stairs, a big chair in front of an American flag, and I go, "Oh, I gotta make a
This
picture
is
of you,"
something.
which is in a different town. So I went back home and I got a suit, like the 70s suit that I would always wear on pictures, like a stupid suit. I always want to make fun. That's why I call myself El Guapo. All these guys were the machine, the pit bull, the dog, whatever, and I go like, why not make it funny? Call yourself the most handsome fighter, just, do that. Actually, Kevin Randleman started that whole thing because I was watching the movie The Three Amigos. It's one of my favorite comedies. And El Guapo in the movie is a very ugly guy. And we were talking about the movie. And I always used to call myself at that time the most handsome guy in NHB, right? Because no holds barred. That was what it
No
called at
holds
the
barred.
time.
Yeah.
And then I remember we were having breakfast in Japan at the Tokyo Hilton Hotel. It was in Shinjuku. It was the best time in my life for every fighter because the breakfast was insanely good. Everybody would be there at one table. Everybody would cracking jokes, all the fighters. And then I asked the wife from Ken Shamrock at the time, she was there, and she was Mexican. At the time, he had a Mexican wife. And I asked her, I said, by the way, what does it mean, El Guapo? And she goes, the handsome. I go, oh, I started laughing. And then when Kevin Randleman got up, he says, okay, I guess I'll see you later, Guapo. He started it. And then everybody always started heard him say it. And then suddenly I became El Guapo, you know. But it was Kevin Randleman, I believe, who started it.
That's one of the most iconic ones ever, El Guapo. It struck me right to the core when I heard it the first time as a Spanish speaker, of course, and you being Dutch and all that. I was like, what the? Boss, before we let you go, one last question from our guy Ridley MMA. He's been waiting for a long time, and I'm trusting he has a good question. So Ridley, make it a good one. We're gonna send off Boss right now. So if you want to do it, let's do it now. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you. Well, thanks, Coachy, and
Welcome. This
thank
is
you so
this is the
much.
first time that you're here, right?
Yeah, definitely the first time. Yeah.
Okay, we have snipers in place. So respect the legend. Okay, go ahead.
Oh no. Oh no, my friend. I'm a huge Bas Rutten fan.
That's
So
great to know.
especially Bas, thank you so much for coming on. I've never in my entire life thought that I could speak to a legend like you. But in these stories today have been really, really fun and enlightening and entertaining. And the guys before me have had some really amazing questions that I can't really match. But I just want to know how much fun is karate combat, and how do you see the format of karate combat going forward?
You know, for me, it's a lot of fun, and especially if you watch the first karate combats, these were guys just traditional karatekas who were point karatekas, and they would hit somebody and they would scream and they would stop, and then the other guy would just keep on coming, you know, and they go, oh shit, I got to start cross training. So then, you know, you saw these guys who are Olympic level freaking karatekas, but point karatekas, and it's a completely different style, and they suddenly started cross training. And then you saw the whole talent getting better and better and better. And then I go like, okay, these guys they can really fight. And then we had Rafael Agaev against Raymond Daniels, and Rafael
Mhm.
Agaev fought his second or his third full contact match. But he's the goat of karate, right? He's got what is it, 11 European titles, 4 world titles, Olympic. I mean, the freaking guy is the goat of karate. But he's also 42. And I go like, if I had to bet my house at that time, money, they say you have to bet your house on a fighter who's going to win. I would have said Raymond Daniels because he fought full contact. He beat best guys in the world, and that guy have beat him. And then I go, oh shit, these guys are for real, you know, and that really made a big turn and impact also. You know, that's why I always say I want to see that a rematch of that because I know Raymond Daniels, his crazy computer will download everything and he's going to be the much better fighter next time. So I would love to see a rematch of that. But that changed my view completely at the time, which already did because, you know, like again, we talked about Arturo, you know, he came in and then suddenly he becomes this complete fighter who does everything, handstand kicks. I mean, you name it, he does everything. You know, it's cool to see that journey, to see them getting better and better and using all these crazy skills, and especially with karate combat with the people holding the power. You know, because in the beginning when we were fighting, there were only long left hooks. There were no uppercuts, no elbows, no low kicks, no knees. I mean, to the body only, you know. But then when the fans start getting control of the league, they said, "Hey, we want to see a low kick on the thigh instead of a calf kick only," because the calf kick that's karate. Point karate is over in at the Olympics, you know. So low kicks got added, knees to the face got added, suddenly elbows got added, 4 ounce gloves. I mean, everything started evolving, and now it's Thai boxing with 4 ounce gloves with takedowns and ground and pound. So to see that, it's really cool. What I came up with, we had this seminar. It was Kosho, that means head. He's the head of this organization. He's a karate guy, a Kyokushin guy who won the 76 Open in Japan. Tough guy, and he was teaching now. He was like 74. I mean, I was blown away, and I go, man, how cool. Maybe we should do, and I'm going to bring that to karate combat. One fight of the evening, make it a full contact bare knuckle fight but like karate, so like Kyokushin, no punches to the face, but the rest everything goes. So no elbows to the face, no punches to the face, but knees to the face, kicks to the face, everything is legal, but bare knuckle. And I think if they do that without a gi, so they can't grab the gi the whole time and hit, because that's what happens a lot in Kyokushin, you know, which is a super tough sport, by the way. I think that could be very interesting for the people to watch, And then once you start doing that, get some Kyokushin guys in there who fight full contact. I don't know if you ever watched those. These are tournaments that start at 128 people, and then only one
The
will win.
true kumite.
Yeah, so you're gonna have to fight like 6, 7 times, and with the gi, you don't know where somebody's hips are. That was my biggest thing in karate. You hit somebody, you think you hit the liver, you hit the hip. Now you broke your pinky. Well, you have 6 more fights to go if you want to go to the finals. I go, oh shit. Those guys are tough guys. You kick a hip, you kick an elbow, your foot blows up in the rest, in the break that you have, and then you're gonna come out. Now you got a thick ankle, and freaking your hand is hurting, and you got your second fight. Well, that's not only, you got to keep on fighting. So I think that could be cool. Maybe to put a tournament in there, smaller, shorter rounds, so we can still like 2 minute round, 2 minute round. No, a 2 minute round, maybe another 2 minute round, and then a 2 minute round in the final. So they fight 3 fights in one show. Something like that should be possible. And I wonder if we could do that. But that be a good idea for karate combat. I haven't. This is the first time you guys hear it. I haven't even talked to them about it because that idea literally came 2 days ago.
Sounds exciting as hell. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
Bas, before we send you off, there's a guy who wanted to show some love. We have Mepolep. Mepolep, you're in charge of sending Bas off from this amazing experience in the MMA chat. So make it a good one, buddy.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me,
Hey.
Kote?
Hello.
Hello, Kote. Hello, Bas. So, I have just a short request for you, just to finish things off. I know you remember it's often memed upon in chat, and people really enjoy it, your self-defense training video in the bar. People get a real kick out of that. And I was just wondering, I know you're sitting down right now, but if you could give us a quick combination, I know it would make everybody's day. It's I call it the dang it dang. when you go right uppercut, left hook, cross. If we had our own version of that as a GIF, we could. I think that would make everybody's month really. But that's my only request for you, Bas.
I don't know if you're seeing chat right now, Bas, but in the chat room, everybody's putting the danga, the danga, the danga.
Oh yeah. That video is hilarious. It's when I saw it, I was crying from laughing. It was hilarious how they put that together. Just a thing that I always say, when I'm talking, I talk a lot with my hands, and once I start bringing my left hand closer, that's for the left uppercut. And nobody expects a left uppercut because everybody's 9 out of 10 people are right-handed, so they always stand a certain way. So even if I stand and bladed a little tiny bit, they will expect my right hand to be the weapon. But once I start talking and I do this and I constantly and my hand starts going low, I'm just waiting for that left uppercut to throw. And after an uppercut, if it depends what situation you're in. Like if I was a bouncer, there's a lot of people watching, it's going to be headbutts. And why I choose headbutts is because it looks very insane to people. And if you hit somebody up and the head goes up and right away you slam your head into him, and then maybe you grab him and give him another headbutt, all the people who are watching, there will not be a problem in the future because they're going to go, you're freaking insane. So if
they're going, fuck
watching,
that.
and there might be a moment that you might think they might jump in, most of the time when you start headbutting, people are going to go, okay, this guy's too crazy. So, and again, I always say this is when you're fighting and you cannot avoid it anymore, right? This is not me saying, hey, go to a bar, try it out, and see how it works. That's not the situation. Situation is like, for instance, in Holland, I knocked a guy out and it went way too hard, but he knocked out 3 women, including my mother-in-law, and I still didn't want to fight him because I knew something was wrong with him. He was foaming on his mouth, so I pushed him outside. I didn't know his son-in-law was following me as well. And once we were outside, I told him to get a tree and hit the tree, and they decided to attack me both. But that was a week before a match, so I knocked them out both. I was letting go bang, bang, and they were out. But then he got up while I'm laughing because I'm going like, dude, I guess I'm in shape for next week. And then he started running to me, and I kicked him with a head kick. And it went because he was coming in too fast. I hit him with the shin, and it was bad. Like freaking skull, everything, teeth flying. So I had to go to court for that one. But when I was in court, I had so many witnesses because he beat up 3 women, and the fact that I still didn't want to fight him inside they knew that I was trying to avoid, because I know the guy, and the guy was foaming on his mouth. There was something wrong with him. He took a drug or whatever it was. But that was scary. That was a scary moment, because he needed his jaw to be together, and he was only talking about razor blades and scissors. And I thought, oh my God, he had a family. I think, did I kick this guy insane now? But thankfully he came out. Everything was okay. But it was a scary moment, and it goes too hard. But it's only when they attack you, then I say you can do things like that. You're not going to headbutt somebody in the face because you made a funny comment or a comment about your wife. That's a compliment. You should see it like that. I always say. Most times, hey, you're beautiful. Hey, don't talk to my wife like that. Well, you just gave her a compliment. Did he touch her? Did he do anything? If he didn't do that, you shouldn't be angry. You should be happy. It's better than when they look at your wife, they look at your wife, and go, ugh, you wouldn't like that, right? So it's always, I see it as a compliment. As long as they don't push it and start touching them, that's a different story, then still, hey, let's not do that. And then it's up to them to decide what they're going to do. And if they keep on going, well, now you're in the clear. Most of the time, those knuckleheads, they will throw the first punch anyway. And once they throw the first punch, it doesn't even matter if they connect or not. They throw the first punch, and then you can it's all clear. You can go.
Man, what a great way to finish this up, man. Bas, I appreciate your time. I thank you for all the kindness and all the stories and all the knowledge you've been sharing. I appreciate all of you here in the MMA chat community for being respectful to the legend and for having something that nobody else has right now, some time with the great Bas Rutten. Before we go, Bas, if you have a message for fans around the world, for the Chilenos they're watching you, and for the MMA chat right here, it's your time, my brother. We'll send it off with that.
I got literally 3 minutes because in 4 minutes I have a business call. Just be true to yourself, true to your word. Discipline, I always say, is the highest form of self-love, a good form of self-love there is. It's saying no to something good right now for something better later on. And the discipline is gone in this world. Everybody, they eat whatever they want, they drink whatever they want, they drugs whatever they want. You're not free if you do that. You're actually a slave to whatever you do. If you can't stop drinking, you're a slave to alcohol. And same with drugs. And I was that. And once I realized that I wasn't in control, that little shit wasn't in control, that's when I start cutting everything out. And I hope a lot of people are doing that. See what you do wrong. If you're overweight, go to a gym. Oh, I go Monday. No, go today. There's no excuses. You should get your vices under control. And once you get them under control, your life is going to be so much better. Because once the body mind connection works, dude, it's everything. Like if I don't work out, it takes me double the amount of time to memorize scripts or whatever it is. And once I keep working out, it's half the time. And it's just because your mind is free. Take a sauna once in a while. Do these things, that are healthy for your body. And eat something. Don't be a pussy. Here we go again, that crazy word. Like
Lovely word.
Go real fast. On Amazon last time I was trying to find out which are the best EAAs, the essential amino acids. And then I started looking through the reviews. And then 80% of the reviews are about, they give them a 1 star. Why? Because it doesn't taste right. If you're such a pussy that I take something for if it works. I don't care what it tastes like. If it's good for the body, I'll take it. Don't tell me, I want to see a pro what is. Do you think a pro goes, oh, this doesn't taste right? No, of course not. But is it good for me? Yeah, freaking drink a gallon of it. That's what we do. So don't be a pussy, just use something and get yourself healthy. And once people can get themselves healthy, your life changes. Everything becomes better. Don't start hiding other people and putting these stupid things out with fake accounts. Dude, imagine you're a guy with a fake account, you're brushing your teeth and you're looking at yourself in the mirror. How can you look at yourself? Right? That's what I always think. I go like, how can you think you're a tough person if you do things like that? So just be true to yourself. That's what I always say. Once you do that, man, everything will become better. And have a goal. If I find out that 17-year-old guys right now, kids, 93%, the average 17-year-old is 93% of his free time on his phone. That kills everything.
That's crazy.
The more you buy, the unhappier you get, because it's all dopamine. But what happens if you buy a new phone? Oh, it's nice. I got a new phone. This is an older one, and I got it only after 7 years because the other one broke down. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm just going to get, when this breaks down, then I'm going to get a new one.
Right until the wheels fall off.
And the more you buy, the unhappier you get. And it's with every vice out there. And people don't seem to do that. Dopamine, no, serotonin. Serotonin is the stuff that keeps you happy. And you know what kills serotonin? Dopamine. And that's the 100% proof that the more you want, the unhappier you get. You never get. That's why you got millionaires. Millionaires have some of the high suicide rates in the world. Why? They can buy everything they want because it's not about that. It's about living your life under control. And once we can all do that, stop hating each other. You know, peace and love, dude. I mean, why would you be angry at people and scream the whole time? So, listen, guys, I gotta run. I got 4:30 for me, and I got this phone call with a really cool rifle company that made a special rifle for me.
UFC
El Guapo
legend,
wanted.
MMA icon, El Guapo. I love you, brother. Thank you
I
for
love you,
everything.
bud. You take care, my friend. Godspeed.
Thank you, my brother.
Bye.
Éxito.
Take care.